We shall now be following the list of speakers as it was published in the daily bulletin and on the web. I start with agenda number 1, general discussion of the reports. The floor is now open for general discussion, and I invite first speaker on the list, Ms. Knuppert, Workers' Advisor and Substitute Delegate from Denmark, to come to the podium to address the conference. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you. Mr. President, there have been conflicts on the way in which the supervision of the application of international labour standards function. However, the recent disagreements have affected not only the Committee on the Application, but also the ILO supervisory system. Most of the earlier conflicts have come from external political issues, but the question of the right to strike is one of the keys to industrial relations. The provision of the fundamental ILO Conventions 87 and 98 are set at a high level of generality. This is actually logical, as the daily context, labour management relations are shaped by a variety of economic, social, structural and political realities. Organising rights cover a whole set of issues which need to be negotiated, facilitated and regulated. They start with the right of workers to agree on joint action for defending and promoting their interests by joining together, setting up an organisation of their own choice, electing their representatives, negotiating and, ultimately, as a last resort, to withhold their labour. None of these specific steps are covered in detail in the conventions, but it would not make sense to say that organising rights which are implied by the Convention 87 include all of the above, with the exception of the last one, the right to strike. The employer's position on the right to strike is to me a big threat to the future of the world of work. May I recall that the ILO is devoted to promoting social justice and international recognized human and labour rights. I would therefore like to say to employers and governments, wanting something does not make it real. Don't forget that the right to strike is a human right. We, the workers, don't demand freedom of association as a compensation for anything. Therefore, let's instead walk hand in hand and focus on the challenges ahead to achieve social justice. I welcome the DG report on the Future of Work centenary initiatives. We look forward to the discussions. Issues like jobs, equality, sustainability, human security, labour mobility and social dialogue are the most important issues of our time, like the DG said in his opening speech. Let me just underline two moments in the ILO history we must remember during our discussions toward the centenary. The Declaration of Philadelphia reaffirmed the fundamental principles on which the organization is based, and, in particular, that A, labour is not a commodity, and B, freedom of expression and of association are essential to sustained progress, and poverty anywhere constitutes a danger to prosperity. The Declaration also affirms that in particular those of an economic and financial character should be judged in this light and accepted, only so far as they may be held to promote and not to hinder the achievements of this fundamental objective. The 1998 Declaration on Fundamental Principles and Rights at Work made it clear that these rights are universal and that they apply to all people in all states. The Declaration recognizes that economic growth alone is not enough to ensure equality, social progress and eradicate poverty. The Centenary Initiatives gives us all a great opportunity, not only to look back at 100 years of history and achievements, but also to find what we need to do to secure social justice and decent work. My dream is that a new social justice declaration in 2019 includes the changes we wish to see in the world of work. Because I do agree that changes are needed, not only at the international level, but also at the national level. We all have to pay more attention to the ILO. We must not forget that the ILO is unique and the supervisory system is important, but unfortunately not always respected properly. Like in Denmark, where we now celebrated the 25th anniversary of a pending case, reported dozens of times by the Committee of Experts. So far, our government haven't managed to follow the guidance from the committee. But it is my hope that our government, who will be re-elected hopefully next week, will do so in the near future. Nelson Mandela once said, "A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. But when you add to that a literal tongue or pen, then you have something very special." That is exactly what I believe we have achieved in the Committee on the Transition from the Informal to the Formal Economy. We have now the opportunity to adopt a recommendation that, for the first time, will provide an international framework for the transition of millions of workers, most of them women, from informality to the formal economy. When we implement the recommendation, millions of workers will look forward to decent jobs. Let us work together, employers, workers and governments, so we can change their lives. Let us together give the workers the chance of a life in dignity. That's my hope for the future. Thank you.
I thank you. Now I call upon the next speaker, Ms. Thyssen, Commissioner